So let's continue our discussion for midterm. So this would be the first lesson or the first topic in midterm. So we've already done discussing introductory for anatomy and physiology. Sorry, we've already done discussing also levels of organization and also the terminology and general plan body. So now let's proceed or let's continue our discussion in midterm, which is pertaining to the cell structure and its composition. Okay, so let's proceed. So before we will discuss first the topic. Of course, as we all know, cell is the basic unit of life. It is a small unit of life. It is a fundamental. Why? Because all living organism is composed of trillions of cells. So in this topic, we will be discussing what are those types of cell, what are the two types of cell, including their parts. So we will unlock some terminology today. So I hope you will watch, and please do watch every time na I gave you a pre-recorded video, kasi it's very very important because it is part of our discussion. Okay, so now let's proceed to the next slide. Before we will discuss na or define the term cell, I will explain first to you the objective. So what are our goals at the end of the session or at the end of this video? My student will explain the cell structure and its composition. And lastly, we will identify and unlock the parts and types and function and processes of the cell. So that was our goal, our main objective, or our main goal for today. So we will unlock the cell structure, we will know the composition, we will define, explain some parts, some types, and location of the parts in the different types of cell. So with that, let's now begin to discuss the cell. So first and foremost, question always arises in the beginning of the lesson. What is cell? As I've said, cell is the basic unit or the fundamental unit of life. Organism or living organism is composed of cell. To explain it further, it said that the cell is the smallest living unit of structure and function of life. Cell is very important in the composition of a living organism. Why? Because in the levels of organization, cell is the second place on how the organism will be made. Okay, from the chemicals with the inorganic and organic substances to cell. Okay, that's why it's very very important. And along the way in the study of cell, they come up with a theory, and it's called as cell theory. And there are different men or persons behind in stating the statement in cell theory. Let's know that one. It said that number one, for the cell theory, it said that all living things are made up of cell. The persons who discovered or who gave the statement, who quote that statement, is Mr. Matthias Sladen and Theodore Swan. Second, we have the cell is the fundamental unit of function of a living organism, which is very very true. Without cell, there is no so-called living organism, or the parts inside the cell cannot be processed well because may lacking siya, may kulang, which is cell. And lastly, cells came from pre-existing cells, and this is discovered or stated by Mr. Rudolf Virchow. This is very known, very known in the field of cell, because this actually based on the action or the plot of a cell. Kasi tama itong statement na to. I'm not saying na only this statement, but all of that three statement will explain the theory of the cell. But the number 3 would be cell came from pre-existing cell, which is very important to know kasi all of our cell, that's why we have a trillions of cell. We divided into trillions of cell because of this one. Diba? From one cell to another cell, from pre-existing cell to another newborn cell, it's like that. So it's stated or it discovered by Mr. Rudolf Virchow. So let's proceed. These are the types of the cell. So if you have question clarification for the two slides, it's very simple, very factual. It is all about cell and all about the theory of the cell. So let's proceed now on knowing the types of the cell. So we have two types. We have prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Prokaryotic or also known as the bacterial cell, meaning to say it is unicellular. Unicellular cell, no nucleus because it is prokaryotic cell or prokaryotes. Eukaryotic cell, it is either protists, plants, or either animals. And basically from prokaryotic, which is unicellular, eukaryotic is multicellular. And take note, eukaryotic has a nucleus. Okay? That is the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Okay? Prokaryotic has no nucleus, but eukaryotic meron. Okay? So that is the two types of the cell. As you can see, I have picture here. These are the types of prokaryotic cell. Here, it's like itong may buntot. And while here, it's like a capsule. Yan, ang prokaryotic cell. And the other one is the eukaryote. So, by this picture, I am now definitely introducing some parts and parts only of the types of the cell. So, take note with the parts and don't worry, we will be discussing that one by one. Okay? So, let's proceed. So, as I've said a while ago, this is the differences between the two. Organism can be unicellular organism or multicellular organism. It can be only have a single cell or it can consist many cell. So, what are those organism that is basically in unicellular organism? Are those organisms that depending on the host. So what are those? We have amoeba, bacteria, paramecium. These are the organism. Living organism pa rin po to. Even though it is part of a microbes or microorganism. When we say microorganism, these are the organisms that cannot be seen in our naked eye. Even though they are microorganisms, still they are part of an organism. That is why it is included to the differences on the two types of cell kasi unicellular organism are part of prokaryotic cell. So what are those unicellular organism? We have amoeba, bacteria, and paramecium. Okay? So by this organism, this organism only have a single cell. So basically, they are involved into prokaryotic cell. While in the multicellular organism, which is the eukaryotic cell, these are the organisms that consisting of many cell. Particularly, what are those organisms that compose of many cell? Of course, from animals, humans, us, and of course the plants. So as you can see here, plants is a living organism, right? Totoo. And plants is part or also known as autotrophs. These are an organism that can produce their own food. Meaning to say is that plants, they produce their own food coming from the process of photosynthesis. They get the energy that they needed to the sunlight, okay, from the process photosynthesis. So plants is known as autotrophs. Autotrophs are those organisms that can produce food. So us animals are dependent to plants. Okay, to autotrophs. If plants is called as autotrophs, animals, humans are called heterotrophs. Heterotrophs in the sense that we are the organism that can not produce our own food. Meaning to say, we cannot produce our own food. We are depending on the production of the autotrophs, which is the plants. Diba? For instance, those food that we actually eat, those food are coming from plants. Meat. Diba? So, that is, it makes sense. The differences between autotrophs and heterotrophs are the plants and animals. So, that's it. That is the that is actually the explanation of this concept map, of this map. I hope you literally understand it. And if you have question clarification, you can ask me on our group chat or even direct message me. Okay, let's proceed. So these are the examples of unicellular organism. I've already tell you kanina yan. So this is actually a picture. Picture behind, or picture that a picture while you are using microscope. Kasi this can be visualized only in the instrument which is called microscope. We cannot see this in our naked eye, okay? Or unaided eye. Oh, makita lang ito sa microscope. So yan, that is the examples of unicellular organism. So now let's proceed. So since we've already done discussing the differences between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, so now let's go on. Let's go deeper about the discussion. Let's go on the cell composition, structure, and its functions. Okay? Let's start on the chemical composition of a cell. This is very redundant. Why? Why I said it is redundant? Because I already discussed it. Paulit-ulit again and again. What is the essence, or what is the differences between inorganic substance and organic substance? So inorganic substance are those substance that is water and minerals, while organic substance are those substance that is called macromolecules, or the biomolecules inside your body. And what are those? Carbohydrates, protein, nucleic acid, and lipids. So that is the composition, chemical composition pertaining to our cell. So it always started with a substance called inorganic substance, water and mineral, organic substance, protein, nucleic acid, carbohydrates, and lipids. And just remember that all living organism composed of this kind of substance, both inorganic and organic substances. Okay, so let's proceed. Organelle are structure that enable to cell to live, grow, and reproduce, and that is called as cell organelle. So those parts of parts and types of a cell, or those parts of a cell, is called organelles, cell organelles. Why? Meaning to say, when we say organelles, we are pertaining on the structure on each type of a cell. We will unlock some terminology, some location of different parts of the type of the cell. So that's why it's called cell organelles. Parts of the type of a cell, or parts of eukaryotic and prokaryotic cell, is called cell organelles. These are the structure that enable the cell to live, grow, and reproduce. So that's why it's called cell organelle. Okay? And the very first part or composition of a cell is a cell membrane. Cell membrane is also called as a plasma membrane. Separates the cell from its external environment. And of course, it literally means that cell membrane consists of lipid bilayer that is semi-permeable. That is actually why it is called as a plasma membrane, because cell membrane consists a lipid bilayer that is semi-permeable. And aside from that, cell membrane also has a function to regulate the transports of materials entering and exiting the cell. So that is the major function of the cell membrane. So as you can see here in my illustration, or in the picture below, as you can see, the arrow kung saan banda, that is the location of the cell membrane. Okay? Yan. So, basically, cell membrane are composed of proteins and lipids. So, always remember that one. And since they are made up of mostly lipids, only certain substances can move through. So, one of the type of lipids, which is phospholipids, are the most abundant type that can be found in the cell membrane. Take note, type of phospholipid that is very abundant in the cell membrane is called phospholipid. And phospholipid are made up of two layers, the outer and the inner layer. Or it's basically called as the tail and the head. Okay? So that is cell membrane. Next, so here another illustration for the cell membrane to picture out it more. Yan. Next, we have cytoplasm. So cytoplasm, according to the statement, it is all materials in the cell that surrounds the nucleus make up of cytoplasm. So meaning to say, all of the materials surrounding in the cell is called cytoplasm, and it's literally called as a cytosol. The description, or we can literally describe a cytoplasm as a gelatinous liquid that fills the inside of the cell. It basically composes some of water, salt, and various organic molecules. And some of the intracellular organelles of the nucleus and mitochondria are enclosed by membranes that separate them from the cytoplasm. Okay, so what is the major function of cytoplasm? It is the medium for chemical reaction. Okay, always remember that one, that the major function of cytoplasm is the medium for chemical reaction. Okay, so that's it. That is cytoplasm. Okay, as you can see in the picture here, this area from the arrow, that is the gelatinous liquid, and it is called as cytoplasm. All materials in the cell that's surrounded with the nucleus are made up of cytoplasm. Okay, let's proceed. So now let's know the two types of endoplasmic reticulum. First would be the rough endoplasmic reticulum, or the RER. These are the site for protein synthesis or production of protein, as well as in its folding, quality control, and dispatch. And we can describe the appearance of the rough endoplasmic reticulum as a series of connected flattened sacs. Okay, part of continuous membrane organelle within the cytoplasm of eukaryotic cell is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And take note, the main function of it is to produce proteins for the rest of the cell to function. That is the main function of rough endoplasmic reticulum. So, as you can see here from the arrow, that is from the separated part, that is a rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay? So let's proceed. So as I've said, there are two types of endoplasmic reticulum, the rough and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So now, let's discuss what is smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or the SER. It is a tubular and non-granular structure due to the absence of ribosomes. It plays a role in the manufacture and metabolism of lipids. And we can describe the appearance of smooth endoplasmic reticulum as a meshwork of fine disc-like tubular membrane vesicles. Okay, it is actually a part of continuous membrane organelle within the cytoplasm of a eukaryotic cell. Okay, so it explains further that when the proteins are destined to be part of the cell membrane, they are exported from the cell. That explains more that the ribosome will assembling them to attach to the endoplasmic reticulum, giving the type of endoplasmic reticulum access, giving them an access from rough to smooth. Always remember, smooth has a absence of ribosomes, while rough has a ribosome. So the function of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or the main function of it, is in metabolic processes. It's actually synthesized. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum actually synthesize the lipids, your lipids, phospholipids, as in plasma membrane and steroids. So that is the main function of smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So as you can see here in that arrow, that is the location of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, because it it helps to boost or manufacture the metabolism of the lipids. That's why I'm saying a while ago that the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the main function of it is in metabolic processes, particularly synthesizing the lipids, phospholipids, as in plasma membrane. Okay? So that's it. So, how was it so far? So, if you have a question again, you can raise it in our group chat, or you can message me directly. Okay, let's proceed. So, let's proceed now on the for me, this part is the important one, aside from nucleus, because it is the center of the cell. This part also is very important for me, because it is the powerhouse of the cell, and it is called as mitochondria. And mitochondria, it is contains with enzymes that help in the chemical oxidation of food molecules and produces energy in the form of ATP. Okay? And we can basically describe the appearance of mitochondria as a membrane-bound cell organelle. So it basically generates most of chemical energy, so needed to power the cell or even in the biochemical reaction. That is why mitochondria is very important, because it is the powerhouse of the cell. All the energy in our body will generate mostly in the powerhouse of the cell, which is called as mitochondria or mitochondria. Okay? So here is the illustration of mitochondria. Okay. Next would be ribosomes. Ribosomes is basically connected to rough endoplasmic reticulum, or even in the endoplasmic reticulum. Ribosomes, they are the sites where proteins are made. So meaning to say, this kind of part, the presence or the essence of ribosomes are in the making of protein. Yon. That's it. It's very simple. When I say that it is a site where protein are made, or this is the or this is a part of a cell that protein are made, basically it called as a ribosome. Okay, very simple, very easy to define. That is ribosome. Always remember that one. And this is the illustration or picture appearance of the ribosomes. Here. Yan. Okay, so that's it. So that's are the parts so far. How was it? So if you have a reaction, some reactions, or even questions, again, you can raise it in our GC, or even you can direct message me. Okay, let's proceed. So now, aside from mitochondria, which is for me, my favorite part of a cell, this one is the for me, this one has the power. Nucleus. Nucleus is found in the most eukaryotic cells, or in the most animals or plants and animals. It is the site where nucleic acid are synthesized, and therefore directs all the activities of the cell. That's why it's called as the center of the cell. Nucleus commanded everything for the cells to what do you call this? To direct, for the cells to synthesize their function, for the cell to work. So that is nucleus. And aside from that, the most function of the nucleus is to control, regulates the activity of the cell. What are those activity of the cells? It focuses on the growth and the metabolism. Meaning to say, that's why there is so-called nucleic acid here, because they carries genes Structures that contain hereditary information. That's why I very like this part of the cell kasi hereditary information has an involvement in the nucleus. And that's why I've said it has a power because it is the center of the cell. Okay. And most probably, we can found nucleus in eukaryotic cell or in those multicellular organism. Okay? So that makes or that explains nucleus. Okay, again, that is nucleus. So now let's proceed on Golgi complex. So Golgi complex is packaging house of the cell. What do you mean by packaging? Meaning to say all of the processes are pertaining to package or ship out the stuff of the cell. That makes the function of Golgi complex. And do you know that nowadays there is a certain anime that eventually explains all of the parts and function of a cell. They basically introduce what are the function of the cell, and that the name or the title of that anime is Cell at Work. It's very very interesting. It's very very good to watch kasi it's involved science. So I'm not encouraging you, but somehow kung may time you can eventually pwede kayong manood niyan. I think meron siya sa Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. Meron siya sa Netflix, and maliit lang yung episode niya, but those episode is very accurate with when the term of those function of the parts of the cell, very accurate. Lahat ng yun ma-explain doon. It's not documentary, it is an anime. Okay, which is good kasi those person they portray the function of the different parts of the cell. Okay? So now let's proceed. Let's proceed now to lysosome. Lysosome is also called as a suicidal bugs of the cell. Why? These are the small spherical membrane-bound organelles which contain a number of enzymes from intracellular digestion, which explains that lysosome break down excess or worn out cell parts. They may be used to destroy invading viruses or even bacteria. So what are the functions of lysosomes? There are a lot functions of lysosome, but I will be mentioning 5. Number 1 will be intracellular digestion. Number 2, removal of dead cells. Role in metamorphosis. Help in protein synthesis. And lastly, help in fertilization. That is the main function of lysosome. Okay? So now let's proceed. To centrioles. Centrioles are organized spindle fibers during cell division. So centrioles is very important in the process on cell division, or how can we divide a cell. So in our next topic, we will be discussing cell division. I will be giving you the steps or the process on how you can divide the cell, or how the cell divided. That is the correct term. Yan. So that is centrioles. It is a spindle fibers during cell division. And the importance of centrioles is in the process of cell division. Okay? Next, these are the differences between flagella and cilia. So first, let's discuss what is flagella. Flagella enables a cell to move, and the appearance of flagella is a lash-like appendage that protrudes from the cell body. It's like it has a head, and it has also a tail. While cilia, the main function of cilia is to sweep materials across the cell surface. That's why that is the appearance of a cilia. It's like what do you call this? Yung it's like a sponge, right? So the appearance of cilia is the slender protuberances that project from the much larger cell body. It's like a sponge, di ba? Kasi nagsusweep siya yung tagalinis across the cell surface, while flagella enables the cell to move. Okay? So that is the differences between flagella and cilia. Okay? So that is the end of our discussion for this afternoon. So our next lesson would be cell division and cytoskeleton. Okay? So if you have question clarification for today's discussion, you can raise it in our group chat or even direct message me. And for your assignment to be passed on Friday, this Friday, to be passed on this Friday. So I want you to research about types of cell division. What is cell division? First, what is cell division? Second, types of cell division. Third, what is cytoskeleton? Okay? So that would be your assignment. I will wait it until this coming Friday, and that has a score. Okay, may score po yan. And you can write it on your yellow paper or even type it in a document. Just send it to my Gmail account, which is nikablancapihana@gmail.com, or even you can send it to my Facebook account, which is nikablancapihana. Okay? So if you have question again, you can raise it in my social media account. Thank you very much for watching. If you did not understand it, you can re-watch it again and again for you to understand the different types of the cell. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and bye.